Looks like we're rocking and rolling. I just want to double check that we're going live into the group here. Guys, if you're just streaming in here, just drop a 1 in the chat just so that I know that you guys can see what we're doing. Because that would be a shame to not see this. Troy is going to be sharing with
I
us
mean, I like
today
catching up with
the
you, Danny.
Review Avalanche. It is the Amazon Review Avalanche with Manychat to get some TOS safe reviews. So this is going to be a really interesting one here. Okay, so let's double check in that we are live. Okay, it looks like we're good. Awesome. Welcome to the live broadcast, guys. And Troy Johnston, who we have on here, is a guy who I've known for 2 or 3 years now. And he's one of those guys who he puts his money where his mouth is. He's an 8-figure Amazon seller who also really got into the software game and has been working on some really interesting tools specifically to help with creating more reviews for your Amazon products. And this is one of the things that people ask me personally the most about. Danny, how do I get more reviews? How do I actually get these reviews? Should I get my mom to leave a review? Should I get my wife to leave a review? No, is the answer to that very quickly, just for you guys. But people are just really struggling with a consistent way to get legitimate Amazon reviews and just have better than a 2% or 3% review rate, right? So this is why I'm really excited to have Troy on here and show what he's doing, because he's a person I know who's doing the most advanced stuff that's not going to get your Amazon account suspended, right? So really excited to have
Yeah.
you on here, Troy. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Always good to see you, Danny. Yeah, like you said, we've known each other now for some time. I always say, in Amazon, a year, it's like dog years, right? Like time is just different in this space, right? But yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about this too. I think for people to constantly ask this question, it makes sense, right? This is what you should be focusing on. If you're an Amazon business, it's ranking and reviews, right? Like that should be your mantra, your focus in your business. So I think it's rightfully so. They should be constantly asking that, constantly seeking out ways to do it. And it's what should make up a majority of your time. But if you can automate it, which is really what I love to do, is thinking about, okay, this is a really powerful way to do it, but how do I do it with the team I have and not hiring an army of VAs or having to hire somebody and have that expense and manage that person? If I can bring in a few different pieces and still get that same objective at a relatively low cost, so I get this really high return and then the small cost, that's when you're playing a different game than everyone else. And that's where it gets fun too.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon is all about scale, right? So awesome, man. Let's dive into how we're gonna do this. So like, what's the first step when it comes to setting up the review avalanche to get the reviews coming in here?
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So I'm going to just shuffle this over here. And if you can see my screen okay, I'm going to dive into the way that we achieve that outcome of being able to reliably and automatically request reviews. And what's really cool about what I'm going to share with you is that it incorporates a TOS compliant Amazon review request. A little bit later last year, Amazon opened up their API. You don't need to really know these terms or anything like that. It's just the ability for us to take an Amazon branded email and send it automatically. We've actually built out a whole dashboard for it in Seller.Tools. But the cool thing with what we can do in Manychat is we can decide when we want to send that well-timed TOS compliant review request. And you're going to see in this Manychat flow how we make sure that we lead with value. We build goodwill with our customer so we have a higher level of expectation of, yes, getting that TOS compliant review in their hands. But then, as you can imagine, it also mitigates negative reviews. This is kind of an overlooked piece of the equation. And if you've done the math on your reviews and ratings, when you get really negative ratings and reviews, that can really slow down your progress, hamper your revenue. It's as important as getting reviews is mitigating those negative reviews. So very important piece of the equation.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in there and say that that's absolutely true from what I've seen, like from some of our clients, for example. If we're starting their Amazon ads campaigns and it goes really, really well in the first couple days or a week or so, and then they get a couple negative reviews right off the bat, right when they have like under 10 reviews, it just tanks the conversion rate. Completely tanks. Like the ACOS goes way up and everything like that. So it absolutely makes a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. PPC revenue, it can really kill your momentum, especially if you're, let's say, in that honeymoon period, you're just starting out, you're wanting to launch and get more sales velocity. When you have some of that adverse activity when it comes to your reviews, it just, it can slow that moving train when you want to do the polar opposite. You really want it to blow up and then scale from there. So this is where this strategy really comes into play. And I'm excited again to kind of share this with you. And I'm going to take my time really breaking this down. So we use Manychat to be able to really engage and support our customers, where we've been spending a majority of our time, where a lot of the big brands that we work with, the aggregators that work with big brands, they are really receptive to these types of strategies where we think about post-purchase. And the reason why we do that is it's every single transaction, every time somebody buys a product from us, it's an opportunity to present them with a value, an offer, a continuation of that relationship beyond just the transaction. And so the way that we kick this flow off when we utilize Manychat is we'll use a product insert. And we can use a product insert with really any number of objectives. We could focus on a product warranty. We could focus on a free gift, a free sample, an ebook. What this flow I'm going to break down for you, it includes registering for then the eligibility to receive a free product. This is a really easy way to do this because we're going to tie in some automatic functions to be able to have this all completed. And again, I'm going to share with you kind of how you set it up, but then what the journey is once that customer kicks off and starts taking part in your flow. So the very first step here in this Manychat flow to trigger it is we're going to have a customer come in either through a QR code where they scan through their phone a QR code, which we can set up right here natively in Manychat. If you're not familiar, it's an available widget here where you would come in, add in a QR code. We just quickly edit that. All you have to do is determine your dimensions based on what you are adding it to. If it's a business card size for your insert, you can add in your logo. You really don't have to get too fancy with the customization. The objective is you just really ultimately want that customer to scan it to then be brought into your Manychat flow. Once that's done, that serves as a trigger. And you can also, and it's highly recommended, that you add as a trigger a ref URL. So if I scroll down, and what a ref URL is, it's just kind of a fancy way of just saying a link that a customer can see that they then know they need to add to their browser, search to then kick off your Manychat flow. And Manychat will give you a default ref URL. You can mask this. You can use bit.ly. You can use a link shortener to kind of clean it up and make it a vanity URL. But that's what we would add to our insert, is both a QR code and a link from which then the customer will be taken through our flow. So once
what do you recommend for a vanity URL, Troy? Is there a certain one of those link softwares you like to use?
Most people are pretty familiar with bit.ly. It has a pretty universal appeal. So I like bit.ly, but you can also use like subdomains. That was a strategy we used to use where let's say it was a free gift. You can go into your domain provider and you could do gift.yourdomain. It was a really slick way of tying in your branding into that link in a really straightforward way. So if you feel comfortable with that, that's a more, I think, effective vanity in terms of the look. But there's nothing wrong with a amended bit.ly link either.
Awesome. That's a good nugget there. A little bit technical to set up the subdomain, but I think that's pretty slick.
It's honestly, I think it's kind of worth it, but it is a little technical, but it's cleaner too. You have anytime you can reinforce your branding. So if this is somebody's bought your product for the first time, they see that product insert, every little touch point where you can reinforce your brand doesn't hurt in the process. So with that QR code, with the ref URL, and Danny, if we have time too, I want to share where we have created for you a business card template that you can use for your product insert, so you don't have to overthink this at all. You take that template, you customize it. We use Canva, which is a really great and easy way to manipulate, use graphics, add text, like a Photoshop alternative. But we use that to customize our product inserts, and then we send those off to our suppliers, and they're good to go.
Perfect. And yeah, guys, comment if you guys already haven't commented flow below. We're gonna follow up with everyone who has commented flow in the comments for this Manychat flow. And Troy just mentioned that Canva business card template, and make sure you guys get all that good stuff.
Yeah, make sure I get that link to you too, so that way that's shared. But that will be very helpful alongside this flow, because that way you pretty much have everything, as you'll see when we go through this. So once a customer comes in, they kick off this process. They've purchased our product. They've entered into our flow by virtue of either scanning the QR code or entering that link. So we let them know, thank you for your purchase. We hope you're loving your product, because they now have it in hand, and now they can complete the registration to receive the free product that we'll allude to and clarify on that product insert. So then what we'll do is we'll come in here, we'll clean up some custom fields, so we have a blank slate to work with, and then we'll ask for that from that customer their Amazon order ID. This step is really important, not only because we do it automatically, but as you see, a lot of the data that we start to capture is immensely powerful, even more so. And Danny, you probably saw this little bit of news that's going to hamper sellers moving forward, is we're going to start losing customers' name and address information. And as that's phased out, you're going to have far less likelihood of knowing who your customers are, what that customer avatar is, informing some of your marketing. Obviously you can start exploring other Amazon options, DSP or otherwise, for more aggregated data. But at the individual and the user level, this is where this reality of this information phasing out of fulfillment reports, roughly in 2 weeks from our live today. This, when it comes to the order verification, as you'll see, and as we get all of this data and we do so automatically in this process, its power is really multiplied. And I'll share that with you here in a second too. So that's what we're looking at. We're capturing their Amazon order ID. They're providing that to us here in real time. What we'll then do is we'll check our Seller.Tools blacklist. And as the name implies, this is a list that you can utilize as much or as little as you'd like and share with other users. But it's a way of sort of keeping out any bad actors, any people that potentially you don't want to be taking part of your offers, to not be eligible. You can, again, customize that completely as needed. It's in rarer cases with this strategy, because this is post-purchase, where, again, somebody has presumably bought your product full purchase or maybe even at a discount, but they're not in the deal chaser category in the same way that you may treat customers that you would blacklist. So once you receive their order ID, we will complete that check and make sure that that customer is not on our blacklist. If it's true, we give them some unique messaging. If they aren't, we'll come down here and we're going to get the order status information through the order ID that they have provided. We'll check based on that order information if it has shipped. We'll also check that the applicable ASIN is part of that order. Now, this is just a double check, really, because when you've set this up, and as we note here, it's pretty unlikely that they've purchased the wrong product that is eligible for this offer. This is post-purchase, is already assuming somebody's bought an eligible product, and this is just a soft double check to make sure as they come through the flow. So we'll check that.
That's an interesting thing right there. So, I guess you've probably seen some data come through. How many people would have potentially bought the wrong product, and then they're still trying to claim your discount there? That's an interesting thing, because that would show exactly how valuable it is to have this automated.
You got it. And you think about people maybe sharing, they see how great this is, and they try to share Amazon order IDs. The blacklist will catch that. If they try to use the same Amazon account, the blacklist will catch that, because it will look at even Amazon hashed emails. And so that's where the blacklist sort of automatically does some of the work for you. But yeah, you'll get a segment of people that may flub things up a little bit, and you'll have to kind of provide some assistance there. But it's pretty rare relative to a lot of our other strategies. When you're dealing with pre-purchase, you're dealing with a cold audience, people that may not know who your brand or product is. And this is where the beauty of post-purchase is you have the warmest audience there is. Somebody who has transacted, gone through, found your product, added a cart, received that product. And this is when we're seeing them, as opposed to, delivering a Facebook ad for the first time, hoping that we're providing a relevant offer to a warm, cold audience, right? As warm as you can make it. when you're doing direct response. And that's really, like I said, it's a big reason why some of the bigger clients, the 8, the 9-figure clients and accounts that we work with, they're really focusing on building that coveted VIP list from their existing customers, which really plays into this strategy.
Yeah, man. I think one thing that people really forget is that product inserts have a 100% impression rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Facebook ads, you
Yep.
take all those same customers, even if you got every single customer matched into a Facebook ads audience, you're still only going to hit a fraction of those people with that Facebook ad, right? 100% of people see your product insert when they open your product, right? Maybe they're not going to do anything, but at least they see it, right? At least you're getting it in front of them.
Right. Yeah, and really you have, in my opinion, a little bit more control too, because obviously if you've got a pretty wide product mix, you can isolate products, you can isolate runs of inventory. So this is something that at minimum you have to test, but from my perspective, in terms of that reality of like 100% possibility, it is how do you glean as much value on a per transaction basis, and post-purchase has to play into that. If on the pre-purchase side you're focusing heavily on PPC, you are running the risk of just facilitating transactions and not opening up the potential of, at minimum, knowing who your customer is, but in the most extreme example, having them take part in a VIP list where you reliably launch, you reliably capture reviews, support, build loyalty. I mean, that's really where, like I said, you're opening up more of the potential. Instead of being at like 20% where you're just PPC focused, you're opening up this whole box of ways of doing giveaways and having them run through influencer campaigns and all kinds of things, because you're directly engaging with them. You're seeing who they are, you're seeing what location they're out of, and we're capturing, and we're going to touch on that here in a second, capturing all these different ways that we can also engage with them, really however and whenever we would like.
Yeah, absolutely agree on that.
Yeah, it's really, and this is one of the next messages that they'll get on the other side of just completing more of the order detail checks, essentially looking at that ASIN and then the order information for that ASIN that just, again, make sure everything lines up just fine. And if everything checks out, we let the customer know we've confirmed their order ID and getting their product or their product registered as part of that process. So we, not so, in a very streamlined way, request additional relevant information for their registration. So we'll come in here and ask for their email address and phone number. But before we do that, we really reinforce the value we're about to send their way. It creates a really great halo effect of, we're about to send you something valuable. This is a great opportunity to exchange value with that customer as well. So asking for their email address, we capture that here. Asking for their phone number, opening up SMS potential. And if you've used Manychat, if you've thought about using Manychat, the power of something like somebody's phone number, whether it's the confidence of that type of data point, whether it's seeing 90-95% open rates with SMS, this is definitely when you get into potentially more advanced strategies. But you've got to capture that information. That's how you open the door, is getting that relevant information from the customer.
And that's a really great little copywriting tip too, is making it, positioning what you're about to give them as really valuable as the reason why they want to give you their email address and phone number, right? Because no one wants to give people the email address and phone number. They're like, I'm just going to get more marketing emails and someone's going to call me on the phone. But there's actually like a really great study. It's cited very often in sales copywriting books about, there's a study done where people were standing in line and one person was behind and he was asking people in front of him if he could cut in front of them in line. And the first round he was doing it, he wasn't giving a reason. He's like, hey, can I go in front of you in line? And, like 70% of people or something like that said no. But the second time he was doing it, he was giving a reason and he was trying all sorts of different reasons. But he found that even with a nonsensical reason, like, hey, can I cut in front of you in line because, I had to, I cut myself with a paper today or something like that. Like something totally nonsensical, but like even if he was giving a nonsensical reason, it was still a much higher chance, like a 30% chance higher or something like that, that they were gonna let them go in front of him in line. So it's a good psychological copywriting practice if you're asking for something to just give a reason, right? And you can play around with that
Mhm.
reason in the flow and just edit it yourself, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, even if in this case, it's a slam dunk. When you're doing a free product, it is the value prop is pretty steep in your favor. Again, this is somebody who's already given you money and is just expecting to receive a product. They may be pleasantly or more than pleasantly surprised to see what you have in store for them by delivering this type of value. But if it's an ebook, if it's a video that addresses FAQs, if it's recipes, if it's a warranty, based on what your product is, what price point, what ways, again, you can get ahead of negative reviews while building that support and loyalty. There's a whole lot of different ways that you can approach it. But this is kind of the most straightforward, where it's like, let's just land a ton of value and then make the most of the relationship we're now building, where our competitors may have no idea who they're transacting with. And once the transaction is done, they float into the void and it's a missed opportunity.
That's huge. Yeah, I'll just put a quick note here. Really, really amazing book that I just finished is I think it's called Marketing Masterminds by what is that guy? The legendary copywriter. And he's talking about exactly that. How do you sell more to the existing customers in different ways, where you can, instead of just like only growing your business by creating more customers, by getting your current customers to buy more, creating referral programs and all those kind of things. And it's really, really incredible, the results there. I'm just going to look up what author that is for you guys just to make sure.
But that sounds like a Jay Abraham book, or I should say concept.
Yeah, I think it was Jay Abraham. Let me just double check on that. Is one of the real classic guys that's been around for more than 20 years that everyone else copies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jay Abraham, exactly. It's called The Mastermind Marketing System. Really great book. Really, really great book, guys.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm biased, but I think he would love this type of thinking about what you're doing anyway. Like we're selling on Amazon, but like I said, the biggest missed opportunity is just to transact, because in many ways that's what Amazon would sort of like most of the brands to do. Those that at one time were vendor or maybe had selective DSP, there was tiers and kind of levels where they treated brands differently. But for the most part, they kind of like us to operate the gray, right? Like, yes, you can do the optimizations that they allow, and you can run ads, you can pay to play, but it's really lacking in terms of what you can do to say, well, shoot, if I'm going to already transact, I know the leverage that Amazon gives me. Why don't I extend that a little bit more and get to know who I'm transacting with? Like I said, that's sort of like the step one. And then taking that even further is thinking about, well, what other Amazon objectives do I have? Do I want to build meaningful relationships? Do I want to reliably launch and rank against or with a VIP group? And that's, if you build up to that point, when you're curating a VIP list, that's really what we aim to do, and our team does in terms of our own brands, is you build it, and then you're really trying to cultivate more continuity and engagement and feedback. And that's where, you have to have resources now, because you have this really powerful asset that you can use in your business, but then also shows up when you go, hopefully when you go to have your business acquired. That is a true asset, to have a valuable customer list.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, if you're capturing all this information, this is where it really shines too, because now that we've verified this order for this customer, anyone that comes through this flow, we've captured their email and phone number. What we also do, because of course we have to send them a product, we have to know where we're sending this free product. So what we'll do is we'll automatically pull from their prior order ID all the address relevant information. And this is really a slick way of just automating this. This takes us back from 2 years ago, when we would have VAs manually verifying orders, copy pasting, the human errors, the human delays. We're automatically taking the one step that they've done, and we're kind of having it complete 3 or 4 other steps and subsequent steps in the flow. So we'll present back to them, this is your address information. We know it because, again, this is where we sent your previous product. Reliably, about 90 to 95% of the time, this information is going to stay the same. It's pretty rare that they're going to necessarily want to send a product anywhere else. That's not a problem though. We can capture that and update it as needed. But what you'll notice is they'll often click that's right. So it will confirm. Really slick automation here, great customer experience where they're just confirming information. So then we'll let them know, awesome, your product is registered and it'll be on its way to them shortly. We'll come back in here and with even more information that we have, we'll do another blacklist check. So again, now we have, we've got phone number, we've got email, we've got address confirmation. We'll just do a quick double check again, making sure that nothing shows up in our blacklist and this customer is good to go before we send that free gift. So then what we'll do here in setting this order ID is generate a unique ID for this order that's about to be sent to this customer. And then we will fulfill that order through the MCF multi-channel fulfillment option within Seller Central. An important thing to keep in mind here is that this is taking from your existing FBA inventory. There's no other logistics that you have to sort out or inventory you have to have at another location or 3PL, you name it. This is existing FBA inventory where we use the multi-channel fulfillment function. We just happen to automate the entire process. And this gets very close. As you'll notice, everything that's gotten us to this point has been customer initiated. So there's no involvement that you have to take part in or your team does. And it creates a seamless customer experience where we're delivering a ton of value, making sure we get all the relevant information to formally register their product and have that free gift or free product then on its way.
And can you just talk really quickly, maybe you're going to get to this in a second, but I know some people at this point are getting a little bit antsy with like, okay, so is this like terms of service safe? Like, we're talking about sending a gift to a customer and reviews and all that stuff. And I know there's so much confusion out there and fear, and rightly so, right? You don't want to get your Amazon account suspended. But can you just talk a little bit about that and how this remains TOS compliant?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's close. Maybe Dan, if I can just go to the next step, because what we've done, so just kind of at the macro view, is what we've done is we've taken a strategy that is immensely intuitive and makes a ton of sense. We're sending more value on the other side of somebody who's bought our product to really elevate the buying experience. The second part, what we've done at Seller.Tools is we've taken that API that I mentioned, Amazon's API to request reviews, and we have added it to our Manychat flows. So we have this well-timed TOS compliant review request sort of sitting in the wings, waiting for us to trigger at a good time when we're going to send it. And so that remains intact. There's nothing non-TOS compliant about the review request. What we're just doing is selectively triggering when it goes out. And as you can guess, same that how we did and really touched on for requesting things like email and phone number, is that we're timing that right alongside the value exchange. So that's really where, again, you get the halo effect of a well-timed review request, a really strong potential of mitigating any negative reviews, but you're tying in things that an age-old strategy of the free gift, but the TOS compliant review request is just, it's waiting for us. It's like, when do you want me to send this out? And Amazon will then trigger and send that email. So that's one of the next steps here. Maybe it'll help too, just to kind of break down now that this product, the free product, is queued up and to be sent, where then the customer can come in here. We'll let them know that it is on its way, and they can check the order status of that newly created order. And this will support and loop them back here, where again, if they click check order status, we'll check it for them in real time and then present that to them for the expected an estimated arrival date. But the really powerful automated review request element is in this next step right over here. Let me see if I can zoom out and kind of cleanly show this whole view. So what we do here is we selectively time. We have a review request waiting period. Keeping in mind, this is post-purchase, post-delivery of the product, because again, the customer's opened it and then this flow has been initiated, where we can time that review request. Now, between 5 and 30 days post-delivery is really important to keep in mind. This is sort of your window to work with post-delivery. So that is confirmed product has been delivered to that customer's doorstep. So if we wanted to, let's say we wanted to wait 7 days post-delivery, and maybe that makes the most sense for your product, when your customer may get the most benefit and utility, and that's something to really think about in terms of this timing. But we'll wait that 7 days, and this is just a custom field waiting for us to add in how many days we want to wait. And then what we'll do is we'll come in here and check if a review request can or has been sent. This is a check against Amazon. We check their API. Again, this is a white hat TOS compliant step. We'll come in, and if they are eligible to receive that review request, we then trigger and send it. And so in the case that they're not eligible, so let's just play that scenario out. We'll come down here, we'll wait a day, then we'll come back, complete that same check, and this just essentially loops. If Amazon at any point in time is saying that they are review request eligible, we'll trigger sending that review request, and then they will receive the Amazon branded review request. And it's as simple as this image right here, where they provide the rating, the main image of the product, and then the seller, essentially the seller feedback is nested right underneath that.
Well, that is slick, man. So that's through Amazon's API. You're triggering Amazon's review request through the API automatically.
This is the power of it, Danny. Yeah, it's taking this really awesome olive branch that Amazon has extended to us that's saying, hey, here's a TOS compliant way to request reviews. And we're saying, okay, well, let's build a whole robust strategy around that and then just well time when we send it. And so if we lead with a steep amount of value, we're just, we're sending a free product. We're trying to get it out to them. We do it automatically. We have no VAs that are interacting with them in Manychat. They literally support themselves, which actually from a customer's perspective, and when you preview the flow and do it yourself, you realize, wait, I'm just plugging in small bits of information. The order ID already gives me, it gives me all the address and order information. I just have to click yes, that's good to go. MCF order routed. And they don't see these pieces in terms of us checking and through the Seller.Tools integration, if they're eligible to receive a review request, automatically sending it at a time of your choosing. And then that ends up in their inbox. So this is where we tie all of these things in, and it's really exciting. It's kind of like a bit of a magic wand. It's like, how can you build out a custom tailor-made experience in Manychat and then just bolt on a way in which Amazon will go out and request that review for you?
That's excellent. And what I really love about this too is it doesn't leave any room for, getting your account suspended with review manipulation of, like, in terms of when sellers are creating their own review requests, they're sending out their own review request email. A lot of people accidentally are going to use some kind of language in there that could get their Amazon account suspended, right? If you're not very specific with how you're asking for the review, then it's not terms of service compliant. So this is great because this is Amazon's email, and it doesn't really leave any room for you, going and messing it up.
Exactly. Now, if you want to get a little, if you want to apply a few hacks and a few other ways to kind of embolden this, because you're spot on, Danny, where we used to have to think about selective language or not linking to Amazon or any attribution, anything that would create a trail that would be adverse to what our intent is of we just want a customer's feedback. We're not asking a lot, but Amazon's made this very tricky, is you can come in here. And so if that review request is sent, what you can do now that you have that customer's phone number is come in, and actually what I would do, this is the way that I would do this, is I would be mindful of how many days I waited to send the review request. So let's say we said 7. We would come in here, match that with a smart delay. Let's say you wanted to wait 1 day after that 7 days, and then send a text message that says, hey, customer, I noticed that Amazon had sent you an email to give us feedback about your product. Would love to know your thoughts. Now, you're not asking for a review. You're reinforcing what has been triggered and sent to that customer. And they know that an email or that Amazon TOS compliant email is sitting in their inbox, and you're reinforcing what Amazon has done. And that's where, like I said, where Manychat gives you so much control over the engagement and the customer journey. You can think about how you sandwich some of that communication where For the most part, we're just building a really, a big mountain of value and then triggering the review request. Then on the back end, maybe sending an SMS makes sense. Maybe then coming in here and waiting 2 more days, you send an email. So you've got these touch points that reinforce maybe some of the same objectives that we're achieving by delivering the email. But these are ways that you can just sort of add a little bit more fuel to the fire of saying, hey, we noticed Amazon sent you an email. Did you have a chance to leave a review for our product? That's a great way of just following up, seeming it's a fairly benign message. There's nothing problematic in terms of what you're saying. You're not linking. There's no attribution. It's just a friendly follow-up that you're completing, which most customers, I would appreciate that, right? If somebody's interested and engaged in my feedback, nothing wrong with utilizing Manychat, utilizing this flow and strategy to follow up and engage with them.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Manychat to release the new premium feature where they have a teenager go and knock on your door and just go go yell at you.
I like that. Yeah, we'll have to submit that as a feature request.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I know Amazon sent you that review email. Did you get it?
Oh yeah. I see that. I see that popping up, a little notification, another new growth tool or something like that. But no, this is great. And like I said, that can be a lot of low-hanging fruit. We have a lot of new sellers that are starting to use these strategies. For the most part, the 8-9 figure sellers mostly get this. When it comes to VIP lists and reliably capturing more customer data and building that list, they're all about it. It's the new sellers where they may be intimidated by things like SMS, these types of little low-hanging fruit where in real time in this flow, we're already capturing their phone number. We can easily then trigger an SMS, like take any opportunity you can get 90, 95% open rates, even if that's you sending one message in one flow. That's, as a marketer, weighing that against your standard email open rates. It's it's like a 70, 75% drop off. It's so considerable. And we know that too, right? We're all on our phones way too much. But it's something that used with care, you can take real advantage of in these types of strategies.
Yeah, and on it, I think it's going to be a sustainable thing, really, because it seems like the messaging platforms like Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp have really learned their lessons from what happened to email with marketers, right? And they're not letting it happen to the messaging platform. They're putting things in place that it stops the spammers from misusing it and really destroying it for everybody, right? So I think it's going to maintain high open rates, unlike email, which just slowly is going down to like 3%, 2%, just no one cares anymore.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. I think that's what's important. And you're right. There's more and more safeguards in place to where the abuse, there's sort of a ceiling on what you can potentially abuse. But I definitely come from a place of like, it's the great power comes great responsibility. SMS, you don't want to abuse that on a per user basis, but then in terms of your strategy, think of it like it's always going to achieve your outcome if you handle it with care. It's when you get a little bit, too brazen, you're sending a ton of messages or not being mindful of the nuances of SMS, short to the point messages, because they're text messages, right? They're capped at the character count as well. It's just making sure you understand what you're utilizing, but not missing out on the opportunity. I feel like right now, this is what we're moving a lot of our flows to too, is SMS based messaging, where we'll do really short, kind of brief interactions, still let all the automation happen in the background, but let SMS really drive it, because then we're not holding the 24-hour rule. We have no messenger compliance questions. We don't have any kind of Facebook craziness that we've seen. And we're hopefully, Danny, too, with what we see with Instagram about to roll out and what we hope to see with WhatsApp, all of these other native integrations that are supposed to be coming with Manychat, there's more multi-channel options for us to utilize.
Yeah, WhatsApp, I think especially, is going to be a really good one, because the more channels you have, the more places you can hit them. One of them is going to be where they like to spend their time the most, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, you can just completely cater it to your customer, your product, your niche. And I think that's where I think it makes sense for brands to be spending more time in this area of how robust their marketing is, what their messaging looks like. And at the end of the day, again, if your competition is looking at this and saying, man, like this was one of my ways of knowing, my customer's name, their address, so what region they're in. It's as that door closes for some, I think it's going to present a really big opportunity for those that are using strategies like Manychat, and they're saying we're doing the opposite. Like we're doubling and tripling down. We literally know who our customers. We can see the picture. We know their name. We know where they reside. We have reliable ways of engaging with them. We can easily create reliable lookalike audiences, custom audiences from that. There's just so much more control when you have a fuller picture at the customer level.
Absolutely. And like an advantage too is if they're in this flow, right, that technically puts them into a Facebook ads audience where you can hit those people, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And Manychat's, they've done a good job. Some of the tools are somewhat amended. They're very simplified, but you can do that natively in Manychat, where you can create and sort of manage your custom audiences, build your own Facebook ads natively in Manychat. So they've done a good job of sort of reinforcing your audience building by virtue of just taking part in using Manychat, right? As they come in the door, that's really up to you to kind of tag and segment and build that audience from there.
And then what are you seeing brands have really good success with today as far as the VIP club? Are they doing Facebook groups, email lists? Like, tell me a little bit about what you've been seeing is working the best.
For the most part, it's been still SMS based. When we look at like our own brands, that's really what we're focusing on, is segmentation through the use of phone numbers. So we're still using SMS. Some tools that we like to utilize as you kind of build out more and start to develop more of a CRM potentially is the Twilios. Those are also things that we're looking at when it comes to what our plans are at Seller.Tools, is how do we make that list management that much easier and really also support more closely the integration with Manychat. So that can be a little bit intimidating. Facebook groups, I think, are a great fallback plan because it's a great way to kind of aggregate as long as you can stay active in that type of community. Think, 2 to 3 to 4 weeks ahead in terms of what type of posts that you're going to provide, what type of value that you're going to deliver. Because I think sometimes, Danny, what I've seen is that Facebook groups can be created as a place for people to land, but then there's an indifference. There's not a lot of engagement. There's not a lot of activity. And you have a major drop off in the potential of that group when they're just sort of there and stagnant. And that's the beauty to some degree of SMS, is that it's at the individual level. It's how somebody interacts with you, over their phone. It's far more personal in that way. And so you have to think about the community management aspect if you do go the Facebook group route.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We both have Amazon seller Facebook groups we manage. So from what I've seen anyways, and tell me if this is your experience, it's one of those things that's kind of all or nothing. And once it gains momentum, it's great and it really works. But to actually gain that momentum, not only in terms of getting people to be interested in your content, but also Facebook's algorithm, because Facebook's algorithm is not going to show your group post to any of the group members if your group sucks, if no one's engaging with any of your stuff, and your click-through rates or whatever Facebook measures isn't really good, right? So is that kind of what you've seen? Is it more of I need to kind of push through to gain enough momentum and then it'll start to work, or what have you seen?
Yeah, no, it is, you're spot on, because it's something that we think about a lot in terms of how we manage our own Facebook group, because it grows, right? You maybe don't think the 2 or 3 steps ahead when you start a Facebook group and think about, well, if this is really successful and there's plenty of engagement and we continually welcome new users into the community, is how you manage and really cultivate that scale. And that's where you have to sort of play out and begin with that end in mind of, if this community starting out looks only like 400 or 500 people, well, what happens if it becomes that 12,000, that 15,000 people that all of a sudden, like I said, you have to keep them engaged, you have to keep them invested. What's the reason for sticking around, and making sure that, you maintain that brand equity, that brand loyalty, and don't underutilize a resource. And that's where you start getting into potential community management, almost a social media management aspect. And so that's where, as a default, it makes sense for most, because you think, oh, okay, I'm doing a lot of this in Facebook. We're sending Messenger, some of the interaction, some of the touch points make sense in terms of how we're kicking off some of this engagement. But it is I think many that I see just starting out don't necessarily see, oh man, okay, well, what if I do really great and then it takes off and then it becomes 10x of what it was at its beginning, and you still have to get and share that same level of value, assuming some level of scale.
Yeah, absolutely. It is quite a big commitment, really, actually getting a high-performing Facebook group and prefer having enough content in there. Like, we have a full-time person who pretty much is helping us create really good content for our group, and there's another person who they pretty much full-time are just managing the group. So, and our group is small, right? We only have like 1,600 people in here at the time of this recording, and it still takes about that much effort. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, like I know guys who do most of their revenue from their Facebook group, and they're doing 400 or 500K a month. So I mean, like out of like a 2,000 person Facebook group, I think a little bit under 2,000. So it is possible, if you're just like really great copywriter, you're like creating really good content, and you just like have nurtured that relationship with those 2,000 people, then that can be worth a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there are definitely some really great successful examples of it too. And I think that's something that, if you want to take the time to really see, whether it's in your niche or broader examples, I think it's always good to pull in and sort of see how it's not always too that you have to share and develop your own content. It can be a case where you have niche specific relevant content. You maybe use tools that, different linking tools where you can embed a call to action to your brand. As an example, if you're sharing another piece of content, there's all kinds of really creative ways that you can sort of crowdsource, use the BuzzSumos, use these content aggregation tools to see what's highly relevant and popular in your niche. And then let that not necessarily be the bulk of what you share, but can really supplement. Because I think once you start going down that path, is you start thinking, well, shoot, I've got to share information that's relevant to them, constantly keeping them updated, versus if you can kind of pebble in a good amount of valuable content and crowdsource it, it's a lot more scalable. Because like I said, if you're just starting out too, you're probably thinking, okay, this may require that community manager, whether it's a VA that you have bring on and start to create some systems and processes alongside aggregating that content. Or even just hiring somebody that's kind of a social media type manager, because it can get to that place. Because you're right, Danny. There's plenty that do a ton of volume, a lot of sales velocity through Facebook groups, and it's still a good strategy. That's why I don't really try to knock it. I just think sometimes it can be. I know that sometimes Manychat feels intimidating, and in the same way, I feel like the Facebook group side of things, where once you have a bunch of people together, it's like, okay, now what? Now what do I do with these folks?
Yeah, but it's good to be honest with people, I think, in the fact that is an advanced strategy, right? And like,
Yeah.
I've had people that are doing, I know that are doing more than $1 million a month tell me like, yeah, this is freaking hard. And like, we have some amazing team members, and like, I do not recommend doing this unless you have a good idea of how much work it's going to take, and like, and what it takes to create good content for those people as well. But like you said, it doesn't have to be super complicated. Like memes, you can go to one of these meme generator sites, and you can blast out 10 memes in freaking 25 minutes or something like that, and that'll be your memes for the next like month or 2 months for the posts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or polls, or really look at, open up when you're in the group and just look at all of the options that Facebook gives you of like, oh man, I could cycle through a meme, and then an article, and then a poll, and then, and then an offer. Like, you can kind of plan out what amounts to a content calendar for your Facebook group, and then you're covered. And that type of planning, I think, is really prudent if you start thinking about going down that path of like, okay, I'm going to get a lot of my customers or potential customers in one place. What next, right? What do I do from there?
That's excellent. And I'd love to also pick your brain a little bit about the SMS that you're mentioning there. So you're mentioning that from what you've seen with your brands, you are essentially using SMS as like an email list, like a broadcast list. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it amounts to our email list with the diminishing, and we'll use Manychat selectively for sending out emails, but more in a supplemental way. SMS is really the big driver for how we engage and support customers, and you can sprinkle in too. It's important to note where, and it's sort of how we've done it here, where you can go back and forth from Messenger to SMS. It's some of the, I don't want to say the negatives of Messenger, but the compliance, the tagging, the 24-hour rule, exhausting and one-time notification, all things that are Messenger specific that really make SMS even more compelling. So that's why it makes up such a big part of our strategy.
That's excellent. And then, so do you have a specific software that you use as your SMS broadcasting system?
Twilio is one that we rely on pretty heavily. Yeah, that's kind of the big go-to option. We're still evaluating, and this is, like I said, we're in terms of some of our roadmap updates and things that we want to be able to do. We're tying in more multi-channel natively in Seller.Tools alongside what Manychat is doing. So where they're bolting on the WhatsApp and Instagram, hopefully, well, we'll see if that's a Q2. We're wanting to supplement that as well. So yeah, I'm trying not to let the cat out of the bag, but yeah, there's opportunities to more easily, especially for Amazon sellers, initiate messaging, and that really, I think, is reinforced with SMS.
Yeah, that's excellent. But feel free to let the cat out of the bag. You know, Amazon sellers all love the crazy, fancy new stuff coming up here. So you know, you want to leak any amazing, exciting information, then you know the place.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you're starting to see when it comes to this type of strategy, this is really where we want to focus on, right? You know, you have your inbound, you have your outbound. The inbound it's a warmer and receptive audience, and it's about owning the journey and then having more options in that journey. So I know that that's immensely non-specific, but that's my way of kind of alluding to like, what at the strategic level are we trying to do? Because ultimately it's still ranking in reviews, but we're building our list. It's taking this and giving more options, but not so many. I think, Danny, you probably feel the same way too. It's like we don't, and I think it doesn't make sense to give just way too many options, because then there's the analysis paralysis where just by virtue of the choice, sellers get bogged down or don't utilize. Like I said, SMS has been immensely underutilized in my opinion. But it's, you look at Manychat, you think of just Messenger, you maybe get intimidated by SMS. And so often you can miss that low hanging fruit or even just trying it out. And so that's really what we'd like to do, is strategically broaden it, but achieve a lot of the same things that we're doing here. Inbound right now is just so strong that the outbound is so tricky. It really started back, my timestamp on it was from the elections. I feel like Facebook was very, very fickle with how they responded to everything. There was a lot of arbitrary bot activity, pages coming down, ads, different ads and ad accounts being suspended. It was just a really brutal time for people using Manychat. And so very quickly in our own businesses, this change was realized kind of in real time. And it's just held out. It's been one of those things where it's not broken. It works great. It's just really, really understanding the nuance of, instead of Messenger and Facebook, and then even email, it's SMS is just it's a nuanced communication method for sure.
Yeah, man, marketing is ever evolving. Like I just saw that like Jungle Scout for the last little while has been doing TikTok videos where they have like, this girl dancing around and then like having with
Oh, Danny?
dance collaboration for next TikTok. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Sorry, I missed that last part. I got the dancing.
Yeah, I was just saying, marketing today is all about dancing and like doing like funny dance TikTok videos and stuff like that. So it's just the next evolution. That's what we're gonna have to do. Maybe the next time that you come on, Troy, we're gonna have a
Yeah,
little
we'll have
dance competition.
have some routines ready. I mean, some people like they really get into that. They do some pretty advanced stuff. Like, man, that is both silly and impressive at the same time. But I guess that's like the TikTok MO.
Oh, absolutely. Well, awesome, Troy. Do you think there's anything else about this flow that for people to know?
I think really just making sure, when we get this in your hands is taking the time to look at it very carefully. When we develop this, we want it to be very simple and straightforward. You'll notice there's not a lot, when you kind of count up the number of messages we send a customer, there's not any more than what needs to take place. And I think we've really touched on the strategy part too of how this starts with value, delivers value, selectively times that review request, and gives you then that peace of mind of not thinking about how to ask for that review request, not linking to Amazon and worrying about attribution. We're just saying, man, that's a perfect time to do it. And then sending it out and deciding how, if we would like, to support and follow up on what has been received from that customer directly from Amazon. So, but no, I'm really excited about this. This is something that, we've put together that I think is going to excite a lot of people as they start utilizing it. I know some people have no post-purchase strategy. So if this is your first step, it's going to be a big, leap forward. But yeah, I think it's very strategically sound. And I knew I was going to have to answer that question. I'm excited to do that when it comes to like, okay, well, TS compliance for review requests. You can see how we just bolt that right onto what we do and say, let's still control the customer journey completely. And then when the review request goes out, it's Amazon that's sending it. And we're really out of the equation from there.
That is absolutely beautiful, Troy. I love what you're always doing. You're always pushing the limits, pushing the new things, and evolving with the way that Amazon evolves, which is very quickly. And you also managed to do it very quickly. So appreciate you coming on here and sharing this. And guys, if you want this flow template, then comment flow below. And then Yulia is going to reach up with all of you guys and send that to you. Make sure you guys get that. And you guys can literally just plug and play this into your Manychat account. The exact one that we see here, you just press a couple buttons and it's installed into your Manychat account. You just put in your own product, obviously. But Troy, if people want to learn more about what you're doing and there's some of the like really cool automations and stuff like that where you're doing a Seller.Tools, I'm happy to point people over your way. Where's the best place for them to go check that out?
Yeah, so Seller.Tools, and if you're starting to dive into or already utilizing Manychat, make sure you check out our full flow gallery. These are more free flows at the same level strategically of things that we've done. We've done tens of millions of dollars in rebates as an example. We've got free flows that have been utilized for that type of strategy. So you can find those at Seller.Tools/Manychat flows. So definitely check out that library. I would encourage, again, folks interested in this content, that's going to be perfect for you. And yeah, reach out hello@Seller.Tools if you have any questions. We'd love to support you and make sure you're feeling good, confident with even these, more advanced strategies.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, Troy. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Let me know in the comments as well if you guys are having any questions about this. Troy's also in this group, so you feel free to tag Troy. I'm sure he'd be happy to help answer any of your questions if you're one of the people watching the replay. So thanks for joining, and go out there, guys, and kick some ass.